On today's show, we again dig into our archives and firstly wind back to December 2015, where we head to Sydney Motorsport Park's Figure 8 circuit. We look back on the final round of the 2015 Hi-Tec Drift Allstars Series and the fascinating title fight between Beau Yates and Schembri. Then we go back a few years more to 2013 and head to Mackay's Palmyra Raceway in North Queensland as the demons of Top Door Slammer Racing battle it out for glory in the final round of the 2013 Slamfest Series. This is Speedweek.
It's the final round of the year, and the Hi-Tec Drift Allstars return to where it all started. After a season of close battles, we find ourselves with 3 championship contenders. Beau Yates and his Achilles Toyota 86 are leading the field, but the gap to his main rivals is only 8 points. Last year's runner-up, Schembri, is looking to keep the title in the hands of the Blaze unit. While Cameron Moat and his Hi-Tec 350Z have got the momentum, scoring more points than anyone over the last 3 events. 3 All-Stars, 8 points, 1 championship. And the champion will be crowned tonight. Sydney summer, it's hot and everyone is ready for a big night at the Figure 8. It's the Hi-Tec Drift All-Stars final round. Welcome to the coverage. I'm being joined by Dave Carter, series commentator. It's all come down to the final round and a big crowd in the house tonight, Dave.
Yeah, it's a scorching night at the Figure 8 and also heating up within the point standings. I mean, we've got a couple of guys here fighting out for the top spot, but also a few there ready to come up, make some upsets and end up in the podium. So qualifying is going to be absolutely key here, and moving through to the competition, there's sure to be some hard battles. Looking at the point standing now, we've got Beau Yates right on top with 125 points, and Schembri and Moat, 2 serious contenders, both sitting there. Alex Sharker within distance and James Abbott right behind. The Blaze unit boys in the top 5. It's going to be hot.
Massive night of drifting set here at Sydney Motorsport Park.
Alright guys, how you going? I'm Beau Yates. We're here at the final round of the Hi-Tec Oils Drift Competition. Currently sitting in first place. I think I'm only 8 points in front of Camo, and Schembri, they're tied in second place.
So anything can happen tonight. I think it's going to come down to the wire, and should be some entertaining battles because I know we're all going to be pushing really hard to get on that top spot.
Hunting down Beau Yates for the win tonight. He's got all the points, so we just need to knock him down a level and try and take that top spot. I'm battling up against probably some of Australia's best drivers as well, but I'm definitely looking to get the win.
Leading up to the final round of the Hi-Tec Drift All-Stars, our championship contenders have had plenty of work to do in the lead up to the final night.
Unfortunately, last week in practice we hurt the gearbox, so we fixed that up this week. When our first practice session, it's feeling really good.
Yeah, so the car's had all the new wires fab suspension put through it, the steering components. It gets a lot more steering lock now. It's going to be a lot to take in, but this is not a forgiving track, so you're going to learn the fast way.
The All-Stars are returning to the track where it all began, the Figure 8 at Sydney Motorsport Park. So what do they think of the small and twisty layout?
Yeah, the Figure 8's a difficult track. It's not forgiving at all. That first corner, you got to throw it in. Pretty much with a wall, it's sort of better. If you hit a wall, you sort of bump back into line, but with the hill they've got there, you sort of ride up the hill and you're in big trouble. So the key to that track is just go hard and just, yeah, give it your all. And I just got to put in a good effort for qualifying, and obviously that helps you throughout the night. You know, I think I've got to finish in front of Camo or Scott or one place behind them. I've got to drive hard tonight, but it should be a good finale.
So drifting is a battle, car versus car, and the judges look for line, angle, speed and style. Speed, very difficult to get around here, and also proximity between the two cars. We know a lot about the Figure 8, but Dave, there's always little nuances that change time to time.
Yeah, the hardest thing here are the two outside clipping sections. We've got the one up through the long sweeper that both begins and ends the run, but the difficult one is right down at the bottom of the peanut track, where drivers have to come through two right-handers consecutively, staying as wide as they can, right on the power and right out on the lock there, and that's what really trips some drivers up in commentary. Mitch Sanders heading through that first sweeper I was talking about here, getting right out to the track edge there, but coming back down the hill, which has put him in 16th position.
Yeah, in his first ever pro drifting event, which is pretty cool to see. Benny Meir, long-time faithful competitor in the Drift All-Stars. Still in a Nissan, but it's a bit of a different style for Benny. That's why he's a bit further down than usual.
Scotty Porter coming through in this S13 that has seen him through a series, and a lot of improvement for this guy tonight. I'm going to be keeping my eye on him in 14th position, but shorter climb.
Ant Billick, he is in the number 13 spot. Another guy looking to push his way up further inside the top 10 in the points tonight, with a lot of work to do down in 13th.
Mitch Jeffrey there, driving an unfamiliar car, actually his own old 180SX that now has an LS in it after having a few issues with his 2JZ powered car that used to belong to Cameron Moat.
Al Sharka not in the usual Mazda, we'll touch on that shortly, but here he is out in Scott Porter's Nissan. Despite the fact he'd never driven it, he still found time to get one hand out the window.
Kieran Jackson, an absolutely solid competitor throughout the series, rounding out the top 10, doing what he had to do to get qualified and get through to the battles.
Yeah, needs to get a little bit closer to that outside clip to get the maximum points. Gavin Edwards, haven't seen this guy really fire off a good shot so far in 2015. That tough-sounding V8 R32 is near the top half of the field, just missed out. He's one of our championship contenders.
Cameron Moat in the company car, as you like to call it, Chad, the Hi-Tec 350. Absolute weapon of a car, as is Rob Arbolino's Matux Racing sponsored S14. This guy drives the absolute wheels off it. Been around Peanut multiple times and kills it with the smoke show.
Brad Toohey in the Toyota 86. Didn't have a lot of luck at the penultimate round recently on the South Circuit, but he's back in this big V8 powered Toyota. Matty Hill, now he's had an interesting night. I'll give you a bit more info on that shortly, but amazingly he's inside the top 5.
Yeah, can steer Matty Hill, and a guy who won't let adversity get in the way of a championship. Andy Worth, a guy who's proven to be an absolute underdog throughout this series, in the top 4, biting on the heels of the podium there. And here he is, James Abbott, qualifying in 3rd in the 2nd of the Australian Breweries S chassis here.
Doing a really good job, the defending champ. Winless so far this year. And then two of the big heavy hitters come in 1st and 2nd. First up, Scott Schembri in the 180SX, driving with a busted finger tonight. Our 2nd qualifier, but the cream has risen tonight.
Almost to be expected. Beau Yates on the top position. We'll head down to the pits to hear how he's feeling about that top qualifier.
No, I knew tonight's it's a big one for me, so I want to close out this championship. As I said, I had a bad round last round, and it's come down to only a matter of points for this round, so I know I've got to drive hard, and like the top 16 here tonight is definitely a top 16. You know, there's not one guy here that I think is going to be a pushover, so hopefully we can make it through to the final and have a good night and come away with the championship.
Points leader kicks his final night off in perfect fashion. He'll have a newbie up in his first round. The top 16 battles look like this. Cameron Moat is up against Gavin Edwards. That's tough. And also Scott Schembri will have Benny Meir. Now, we mentioned that there were 2 drivers early that had dramas at the beginning of the night. Let's find out a bit more about what happened to them. The start of the final night of the Hi-Tec Drift All-Stars was anything but boring for Matt Hill. In the first practice session, he ran off the figure 8 track and damaged his Nissan S15 badly.
We've had an unfortunate event, as you can see. I ran too wide in the first corner and I dropped a wheel, and somehow the wheels wrapped under the car, and yeah, the car got airborne about 1,500 off the ground, so we're just trying to get the team together now and get it fixed and get back out there.
Another driver who had some issues early on was Alex Sharka. The Hi-Tec Oils Mazda RX-8 broke down in practice, but Alex still managed to qualify 11th in Scott Porter's S13 Nissan.
Unfortunately, as you can see here, we've snapped our tail shaft in practice, and the joys of having a different car, the only RX-8 that's drifting in the country at this moment, it's hard to get parts for. So that's our night now, season over. Next year, we're doing a bit of a rebuild on the car. All new panels, new look, fresh paint. You know, we'll go over the engine, make sure she's Mickey Mouse, service the gearbox and the clutch. This car, you know, it's still a learning curve for me. I've been driving it for 2 years. At the end of the day, I'll just give it my best and stand out from the rest.
So after 5 rounds, practice, qualifying, and a whole heap of banter, we are ready for the battles. Hi-Tec Drift All-Stars, round 6 here at Sydney Motorsport Park, top 16 coming your way. Dave, our championship contenders have very varying battles here. You've got Yates up against a first-timer. The one there that really stands out, Schembri and Mir, that's tough. But Moat and Edwards, that is a hard first-round battle.
Yeah, the really interesting thing here is that it's a 16-car field with a top 16 qualification. So these guys are just being shuffled around trying to work out who they're going to be battling in these qualifying runs. And the first of those battles is Brad Toohey up against Alex Sharker in Scott Porter's S13.
Difficult battle, this one for Sharker. You can never drive with 100% confidence in someone else's car. Toohey, absolutely overdue for a big result as well. So it's a difficult first round matchup, and a spin will just about put the nail in Alex Sharker's coffin that is his championship this year.
Pretty understandable, you know, going from a JZ-powered RX-8 to a V8-powered S13. Could they get any more different? Toohey obviously finishing off the run unopposed. Heading to the Achilles replay here, it's these really tight transitions that would throw off even a professional as the back of the car pendulums around here, going for that clipping point, trying to keep as much angle as you can while chasing. It's easy enough to be forced into that mistake, but one that Alex Sharker will be able to make up for now in the lead.
He's desperate to try and hang on to a top 5 result in this championship. He comes in 4th in the points, so he needs to try and stay ahead of the likes of James Abbott. Toohey doing all that he needs to here, knowing that Sharker spun in that first run.
This bottom section here is particularly tricky, Chad. You can see that cone out on the outside edge, and it's where both drivers really need to aim, but something that they both had a little bit of difficulty with there, allowing Alex actually to open up a gap there in front of Toohey, possibly coming back from his mistake before only the judges will be able to tell.
And there's the confirmation. So Brad Toohey in the Toyota 86 does get that victory. And that means that Sharker's championship campaign is done. We won't see him back in 2015. How much do you love watching Andy Worth? This guy is retro coolness divine.
Yeah, another guy with issues, though, is Billick. Unfortunately, not able to come and match up with Andy Worth here, who has just dropped a tyre off the edge of the track, yet again defeated by a debeated tyre. I mean, this happened down at Adelaide and has happened a few times throughout the series, possibly next year, considering running either a bigger tyre or a smaller wheel. But, I mean, who can blame him? That car looks absolutely fantastic there with a little bit of stretch, those flares filled. Maybe just needs to keep it on the black stuff.
We've loved watching Andy Worth, and we'll see him back out in the top 8 after getting that walk. Matty Hill, what a night he's had so far.
Yeah, a few issues there, hitting the track edge and actually splitting a wheel. But another guy has had mechanical issues. Mitch Jeffrey in the chase there. Mentioned a little bit earlier before, he drives that bright greeny yellow S13. Used to belong to Cameron Moat. Now managed to borrow his old car here and trying to put on a great battle with Matty Hill. Chasing down that really high grip, another JZ-powered S chassis that Mitch Jeffries would be all too familiar with chasing down, but it seems that the extra power there is pulled away from the practically stock LS motor.
Yeah, we know that Matt Hill is strong, and the judges have given him the nod in this one, albeit just after the first run, so it's advantage Hill. Also good to see Joel Goff trying to help him out earlier tonight in getting that car fixed after the practice crash.
Speaking to Mitch in the pits, he was really keen to see what an S chassis with stock knuckles can do. Remember, a lot of these guys are running modified steering knuckles, something that doesn't seem to have helped Matty Hill there. A little bit of understeer, really fiddling around with the wheel, possibly struggling to chase a slower car, which can be a real roadblock in drifting, but it looks like Mitch is doing exactly what he needs to do to possibly even the score.
Power up the hill for Matthew Hill, but Jeffrey has possibly done enough here. Oh, he drops the wheels off. Maybe that might be enough to keep it in the hands of Matthew Hill, who did have that earlier advantage. This one's up to the judges.
Mitch going in a little bit hot into that sweeper there, but as we get confirmation from the judges, Matty down low on the hill there. Few mistakes from both drivers, and it looks like the judges have gone with Jeffrey. I'd say it's from earlier on in the run where Matty Hill was coming through that sweeper, big straighten up, bit of an issue. As much as there was a mistake there from Jeffrey's right at the end of the run, possibly balanced out by Matty Hill.
All right, well, back in the pits, we see some action here. Alex Sharker trying to help out Scott Porter, changing tyres and getting ready for a second rerun against defending champ James Abbott. Now, here are some of the highlights from this earlier run, Porter v Abbott. It looked like there, another little wheel drop for the Blaze unit driver, but this is some of the best driving we have seen from Scott Porter.
his V8 powered Silvia might be looking a bit battered and bruised from a hard series of finding the limits of that setup. But earlier we've seen a few crashes down in Adelaide and a few things like that, but he has absolutely stepped up his game 110%. The level of speed that he's pulling around this peanut track, pulling away from some of the more experienced drivers, he's just absolutely killing it. Driving on semi-slicks on such a grippy surface in itself is difficult. But to put on a gap like that, and here is the difference, that is practically the entire straight against one of our high point finishers, James Abbott, in the series. Absolute upset from Scotty Porter that has led to this rerun.
If you ask me, a little bit unlucky not to get the win then against James Abbott. But Abbott survives. And here we go with another rerun.
Scott taking a bit of a lower line there, but James Abbott not out to the track edge either, so possibly equal. Skipping over the inside clipping point there, actually dropping a wheel in the dirt, and it looks like a straighten up and on the brakes there, unfortunately, with Jabbett now repeating that drag race up the hill.
Well, that'll just about seal the deal here. The Blaze unit defending champ, driving for the Australian Brewery, is almost a certainty to go marching on through to the top 8. Now, you get the feeling as we just check out this replay, thanks to Achilles once again, exactly where this went wrong here for Scott Porter, that maybe Jabbett underestimated his opponent earlier and went for a different choice of tyres. Wow, that was pretty violent. Oh, and he throws his hand in despair off against the windowsill, knowing that he'd thrown it away. But yeah, I think he maybe underestimated Scott Porter here, and he's had to work for this win.
Yeah, the other thing to note is that through the cameras, those hairpins in the middle section might look nice and wide, but when there's two cars side by side drifting as closely as they are through this sweeper, it's here that these two transitions can really trip you up. You've got to watch the boot, not giving too much momentum and swinging the car around, but also getting on the power nice and early, as Scotty Porter did there. Absolutely smoking it through that section and fast into the top sweeper, but James Abbott right with him.
Well, they call him Scott Hollywood Porter, but I reckon Scott Power Porter sounds a little bit better. But congratulations to Scotty Porter. Drove the wheels off that car tonight, but when you've got Jabbett in that kind of form, well, at the end of the day, you're probably not going to go on through.
Sounds like Porter's finally got a nickname that he didn't make up himself. Let's head down to the pits and see how he feels about it.
I felt really confident there. The car felt awesome. I put good ride semis on the first battle and they felt sick. Put the Achilles on. I've never driven on the semis, and that's what threw me off in my chase run. So a little bit disappointed, but very, very happy with how I drove tonight, so I'm stoked.
Yeah, he can hold his head high. We have the big championship top dogs still to come in the round of 16, so don't go anywhere. Plenty to look at Sydney Motorsport Park. Tell you what, the final night of the Hi-Tec Drift Allstars has been great at Sydney Motorsport Park. Mad crowd at the figure 8 so far, still building too. I know this track might not be as great as running at the South Circuit, but it's almost like a 2020 feel here tonight. We check out the guys who are through so far. Worthby, Tui, Abbott and Jeffrey to meet. Still waiting though, Dave, on the big championship contenders.
Yeah, battle before then though, Rob Arbolino up against Kieran Jackson, and I'd just like to point out it is so refreshing to see two Silvias still running SR20s, both with mega power, both making a crazy noise, and I'm sure I'm going to flame myself for loving on SRs here, but it's mad seeing Rob Arbolino now leading Kieran Jackson. Bit of a mistake there in the chase, letting Rob Arbolino come out in front. This thing absolutely hauls the Matuk Racing S14, and right at the top of the sweeper there as Kieran comes out onto the straight, that's a big gap to chase down.
Yeah, big lead this one. Oh, no, he's past the finish line, so the spin is okay. And judges will have no issue in finding an advantage there for Arbolino. No, they don't. Jackson made one or two errors in that run. You saw him just get the inside clip earlier. Big straighten up through the mid part of that corner as well. And has a lot of work to do to try and get on through to the last 8.
Switching up the order now, Kieran out in front, and Rob definitely eager to chase him down. It looks like a little bit of a gap there early on and a lot more angle from Kieran Jackson, although he is taking that low line. The judges have mentioned All cars should be going right up to that track edge and the outside clipping point, heading into the second outside clip here. And Jackson right on that track edge. That's beautiful, and what they want to see. Rob right there with him as they come onto the front straight. Little straighten up and then straight into that aggressive entry on the sweeper. Bit of a correction there from Rob, heading wide through the finish line.
Bit of a conservative one, wasn't it, from Marbolino, but should have done enough, and he has with the judges, to get one through at the top 8. But that was a big power run from Kieran Jackson. Achilles radio replay showing these two boys in fine form. And now we have one of the championship contenders on the figure 8.
Yeah, this whole night's been defined by quick turnarounds between runs, and I'd just like to thank Hitachi Tools for really helping these boys get back out there. But Benny Meir on a mistake there with the master chef himself, Scott Schembri, out in front. I mean, this guy is a guy you do not want to take lightly, and giving him an early advantage like that on the first sweeper is going to be absolutely impossible to recover from, but I'm sure Benny Meir is eager to do it.
Wow, so Scott Schembri gets pretty much a walk on through to the final 8, and this is going to help his championship charge just fine. And that also means that 2 consecutive years have gone by where he's only missed out on making the top 8 on just the one occasion. That happening, I believe, down in Melbourne off the top of my head, but he's just going to power on through here. Oh, he's pulling in there as well, so maybe an issue here for Scott Schembri.
Looks like the 5-minute rule may have been called there.
Well, he's got the advantage, but he needs to get back out for the second run, hearing potential gearbox issues.
Yeah, a few issues there with maybe clutches or boxes. Looks like they have actually had this boxer part on the floor throughout the week there. Schembri saying in the pits that he was fairly sure that the box was all good, but it looked to be popping out of gear there. I believe second gear on this track is absolutely essential there. Few Oki straps and some Aussie engineering, and that is what I absolutely love about drifting. As much as these cars, highly engineered, big money builds, have a lot of power and a lot of research gone into them, when something goes wrong at the track, Oki straps, cable ties, whatever you need to do to get back out there and run, and that's exactly what Scott's done to put on a second battle with Ben Meir.
Well, is this going to open up the door for Ben Meir? Schembri struggling to stay with him.
Big gap there.
Meir's spin will surely be enough, though, for Schembri to progress. Had that not happened, we could have seen a big upset. He does just enough to scrape in, I reckon, but he'll be a nervous man if that gearbox is broken for the rest of the night.
I'd wager even with the Oki straps, it was at this point here that maybe on the off-throttle transition it looks like possibly popped out of gear, or maybe a reclutch there to get it back onto power. But that is exactly where Ben powered away. No gap in traction there.
So one of our championship contenders goes through, but there looks to be dramas here for another. Cameron Moat was meant to be in this battle against Gavin Edwards, but he is a no-show. This could mean that his championship is done. Let's find out what went wrong.
Yeah, so the boys were playing around with the steering in the pits while it was not running, turning the steering wheel, and it snapped the power steering rack while we were playing around with it. So at the moment the steering does full revolutions and no action with the wheels. So yeah, just another mechanical fault, which is part of racing, I guess.
Unfortunately, yeah, without the assistance of the power steering pump there, all of the weight of those front semi-slicks putting a lot of load on the rack and unfortunately snapping the pinion out at ending Cameron Moat's night. This is sure to be an interesting battle, Chad. Mitch Sanders here on his very first night of competitive drifting up against Beau Yates, arguably the longest competing contender in Australian drifting.
Whoops, and Sanders loops around in the background, so another one of our championship contenders will get a walk-on through here to the next round. It would have been a monster upset had Sanders actually really come to the party and upset Beau Yates, but he's in his first ever real drifting event here. So this is all about just getting some experience.
Heading to the Achilles replay here, it's here that Sanders is tripped up, and we've seen a few people on those transitions tonight. It looks a lot more open on camera than it is in real life. You come through those two hairpins and the momentum of the big boot and fuel tank out the back slapping around behind you, unless you are on the ball and very experienced with this track, it's easy to get thrown into a loop.
Riding on board with Beau Yates as he tips that thing in third gear. Nice proximity, just toying with Mitch Sanders, the rookie.
A very fast car, and you can tell that Beau Yates here has seen the mistake before, knows from years of drifting that he's just got to do what he's got to do, using this as experience to nail his line down in those chase runs with a slower car that he may come up against later on, some sort of roadblock against a slower car. But then again, this series is also full of cars just as quick as Yates. It's sure to be an interesting top 8.
So Yates walks on through to the top 8 here tonight. Mitch Sanders, unfortunately, his opening event comes to an end at the hands of one of our championship contenders and one of the very best in Australia. Let's hear how Beau is feeling after that one.
I'm not here to make up the numbers tonight, mate. This one, this means a lot to me. It's been a long time. So 2006 was my last championship, so hopefully 2015 is a good year.
And the battles look like this now. What a shame that Cameron Moat couldn't have got through, because he would have had Beau Yates, but now it'll be Edwards v Yates. Tui and Worth. Arbolino has another one of those championship boys to watch out for in Schembri. His teammate Abbott will be up against Mitch Jeffrey. This is going to be a big night now. Such a good vibe here tonight, the figure 8, Sydney Motorsport Park, and the top 8 rolling on out to the final round. Bit of new versus old. Tojo power coming to the fore. This is Worth and Tui. We said earlier that Tui is due, but Andy Worth is a tough prospect on the podium at Adelaide. And this is how they'll line up. Looks pretty interesting. We have just 2 guys now fighting for the championship, those 2 being Schembri and Yates.
Old 8.6 versus new. Andy Worth up against Brad Tui. 2 V8 powered 8.6s. Tui's with a pair of Pro Chargers on the side. Something that has actually caused a few overheating issues in the past, but Tui not one to hold back, saying down in the pits, he is willing to risk this motor for the championship. What an absolute legend, putting in a difficult battle up against Andy Worth. And as they come through this bottom outside clip section here, it seems that the lighter, naturally aspirated 8.6 of Andy Worth put on a bit of a gap coming onto the straight, but that is well and truly made up with Brad Tui. This is an equally balanced battle in the top and the bottom end of the track. It's really interesting seeing these 2 different cars go at it.
Pretty evenly matched battle, that one. And there you go, no advantage at all from the judges between Worth and Tui this time through. So they'll have to do it all again the other way around now. Drift Syndicate on the doors here for Andy Worth, who's looking at a top 5 championship result. Not bad considering he actually missed Melbourne.
Tui out in front there, putting on a big gap. Speed up that hill. Sparks and Grip trying to get as much speed onto the straight as he can. Riding on board with him now. You can see him working for it. Cool, calm and collected, but a lot of wheel work there. Andy Worth still with him though, back in that smoke screen. Sparks again out onto the straight.
He's lost the sunnies now, hasn't he, Andy Worth? He is working hard as Tui drops the wheels off into the dirt and almost throws Andy's rhythm out the window as well. So a big straighten up for him. A lot for the judges to consider in that last corner.
Heading to the Achilles replay now. Tui takes that high line just a little bit too high, actually sucking Andy Worth up onto that hill as well, something that's very easy to do when following a car that makes a mistake. You're aiming for proximity. You're trying to get as close as you can to the car that's leading you, and unfortunately, that often ends up to the chase car repeating the mistake of the lead.
So the end result is a rerun. I don't think anyone can really argue with that result after what we saw. And the best part is we get to see these 2 go again, because the first time through was entertaining.
Watching them head through here, it seems that Tui, as he has in the earlier runs, dominates up in that top section, but as they're coming to switch back through here, the instant torque and the switchback technique of that lighter, naturally aspirated car again puts a little bit of a gap on Tui in the chase, but then as the power gets put down by that twin-charge V8, Tui closes the gap through the straight and really sticks it to Andy Worth's door through the sweeper.
Just a tiny mistake for Andy Worth this time, dragging it in on the handbrake. You watch that left rear drop down, straightens the car up, and is that enough to send the advantage to Tui? You betcha.
Pass back to the chase car there. Unfortunately, a bit of a mistake finding that track edge again, something that actually debeated a tyre for Andy Worth in the earlier run. The track edges of the figure 8 at Sydney Motorsport Park are absolutely notorious for anybody who's driven here. They are a lot deeper than they look on TV, and it's something that you really have to avoid. I mean, in drifting, the goal is to stay on the black stuff, but it seems that a few drivers have found their way off and found some damage in these ditches.
Gee, tell you what, big angles on this one, especially through that transition. Tui opens up a gap right at the end. He is driving like a man possessed tonight. That little naturally aspirated old school 8.6 struggling to keep up. And the Achilles radial's doing the thing on that Toyota 86.
It's interesting to note that Tui, for the first time in this earlier part of the run, has actually been able to put the gap on in the bottom section where Worth was dominating earlier on. And I think earning himself a deserving place in the Final Four.
Yeah, that is huge. He has been pushing so hard for that. Now, Scott Schembri is up on the racetrack with these gearbox issues, and he's all alone. So Rob Arbolino, who he was scheduled to come out with diff problems, and Schembri just driving this thing like an actual race car, albeit just in first gear, is going to get through to the Final Four. He is a lucky, lucky man tonight.
Yeah, Schembri really conserving the car and conserving the gearbox, but not someone that I'd call conservative in any means. Putting that right foot down, doing a few little screechies, few little drifties out there, but definitely saving that car to get through for what could be his championship win. But it is well and truly up in the air at the moment, with James Abbott now leading Mitch Jeffrey in his old 180SX V8 powered. Chasing down James Abbott in that JZ-powered S15. Sure to be an interesting battle here as they come through those tight transitions. There's absolutely nothing in it, with Mitch Jeffrey's front bar almost touching the rear of the Blaze Unit 3 Fingers Neat Australian Breweries S15, throwing a few sparks onto the straight there and absolutely gone. Pulling away that gap that Jeffrey had earlier in the run and coming across the finish line with possibly, what, 3-4 car lengths there?
Jabbett's got himself 2 runners-up finishes so far this year, but no wins off the back of a hugely successful 2014. He is hungry tonight. Yes, he wants to see his teammate win the championship, but he also wouldn't mind getting himself some prize money for a big win tonight, and he's doing a very good job, albeit lucky to survive one against Scott Porter.
Yeah, only scraping his way through. They're actually underestimating an earlier competitor and putting on his lower grade tyres, something that he's definitely not going to make the mistake of here. Absolutely pushing Mitch Jeffrey there, knowing that he's unfamiliar in this car, trying to force him into a mistake right on that door there. Oh, doesn't get any closer than that. I believe there could have even been contact as they come through the ditch and onto the straight.
He is just hounding that right-hand door. You can see Mitch working away. Oh, Jabbett like a detective's dog, just sniffing around that right rear quarter panel. Wow.
If you've ever wondered what a chase run is about in drifting, that is what a chase run's about in drifting. That is the front wheel right on the driver's window of Mitch Jeffrey. Imagine being in his position, looking back and seeing a very aggressive car that you know is driven by a guy who can steer, knocking on your door saying, come on, mate, move along.
Now, back in the pits, this is Brad Tui's car, the Toyota 86. You mentioned that he had those cooling issues earlier in the night, particularly practice. They're pointing down the back of the engine. Hopefully that is okay, and he's going to be able to come out later. Okay, we've seen Scott Schembri get through. Beau Yates needs to keep marching on through to keep his championship alive. Points leader on the track against Gav Edwards.
Out in front, they're putting on a smoke show, but it seems not actually putting on that much speed, with Gav Edwards right behind him, right on that door there, really pressuring this highly experienced driver in Beau Yates to put on his A-game.
Listen to these two cars working around that last bend. Edwards right on the door of Yates.
This top 8 battle series is turning into an absolute pressure cooker. The battle we saw before, close chase runs from Jabbett, and again, Gav Edwards here, absolutely pressuring the driver's door of Beau Yates, but Yates not one to make a mistake and getting the nod from the judges, getting the advantage here. Now the positions are to be switched, and Yates is going to chase.
Yates, the winner of round 2 on the South Circuit, but at the last round couldn't even compete after having engine dramas early in practice.
I believe he picked up a bit of rubber off the track surface and skipped a tooth on the cam gear there. Definitely running in closed cam covers now.
And in a serious fight here with Gavin Edwards, who's putting on a really good lead run. Wow, actually opening up a bit of a lead here on Beau Yates.
That's absolutely unheard of, and it looks like Yates has been sucked in there. Coming up that front straight, Gavin Edwards put on a massive gap. The very high-powered 8.6 of Beau Yates eagerly trying to chase him down as we head to the Achilles replay here. There he is, absolutely macking into that corner. Front wheel lockup, doing a fantastic job to keep it off the wall, but man, must be absolutely disappointed.
And the judges have pinged him, so Edwards with another huge scalp. Let's hear from Beau.
Well, really, I should be in the final battling it out for myself, but I just overdrove them behind Gav. He's got phenomenal speed out of that 32, so I just tried to do way too much in the last turn, and I ended up in the dirt, and lucky I didn't get in the fence, but yeah, disappointed. The Achilles 86, like, we're on fire. We qualified well, so we finished 5th. I think he's still got to win the night to win it outright, so I don't know. I think he's got dramas of his own, so we'll just see what happens, and I'll go sit and have a watch. I mean, I'm disappointed I'm not driving, but I guess pressure's off now. I can just sit and have a watch and see if it falls in my lap.
Well, he's done his equations correct. Schembri needs to win the entire night tonight to win the championship, and he does have that wounded gearbox. He'll have Brad Toohey in his top 4 matchup. His teammate James Abbott will have the giant killer, Gavin Edwards. So that is 2 big matchups still to come tonight. Championship on the line. Schembri needs to win the entire event to win the championship. Can he do it, or will Yates cling on to a title? We're going to find out on the other side of the break. Drift All-Stars, it's coming down to the wire. Cameron Moat, Beau Yates are both out. It sits in the hands of the man that is throwing us sideways right now. This is Scott Schembri. He's up against Brad Toohey. It's simple. If he loses against Toohey, Yates is the champion. Time to check out the ladder as we head into the top 4. Toohey v Schembri, like we mentioned, but the other matchup is also interesting because it's the reigning champ against Gav Edwards. Could we see an all Blaze unit final? Now, Dave, that will be an interesting one to handle, but we've first got this battle, and we know that Brad Toohey's car has been overheating, so hopefully he's okay to go.
An absolutely critical point in the championship. 3 contenders going into this final round had a shot at the championship. Cameron Moat, unfortunately, out with mechanical difficulties. Now it's down to Beau Yates on the sideline, unfortunately knocked out, heading up onto the grass there and nearly clipping the wall. And it's all down to Scott Schembri, who we ride on board with now, battling Brad Toohey. Couple of gearbox issues. Oki strap holding that gearbox in 2nd gear. And what will this come down to? Brad Toohey chasing, hoping to knock Schembri out, but Beau looking on from the sidelines, eager to see it.
And saying, yep, that one was pretty close. Let's see what the judges thought. No advantage. So, heading into run number 2, this is still pretty much anyone's guess between Schembri and Toohey. Remember, if Toohey wins it, Yates is the champion.
Absolute nail-biter, Chad. I mean, Beau came in here with an 8-point lead, and finishing that high in the series means if Schembri wins, he wins the entire series. If he is knocked out in this battle by Toohey, as much as Toohey goes slightly up the championship points, Beau will be our champion, and that is surely at the front of mind of every one of these drivers left to run tonight.
Toohey looks very cool, calm, collected in that onboard. He tries to get a bit of a lead going here with that Toyota 86. He's got a small advantage up the hill. Is that enough for the judges to say yes, we'll score it to the Toyota through the finish line? Flying finish it is. And, well, I'm not sure what Beau reckons after that one.
Yeah, Beau with a bit of an exclamation there. Big gate flame coming out of the bottom of the MasterChef's car. Absolutely driving the wheels off this thing. But with that gap at the end of the run, really difficult to find out what the judges will say. Yates in obvious suspense there, standing on the sideline, trying to see how the judges will rule up on the tower. And it looks like a rerun.
Whoa, Beau Yates. I don't think he exactly agreed with that decision, looking at the expression on his face, but we are going to do it one more time.
No advantage, no advantage. How nail-biting is this?
My goodness me. So you've got a car that's overheating against a car that is stuck in second gear for the rest of the night. Who is going to get there? Remember, Schembri's car had a colossal accident in Victoria. It's the walking wounded in the final round on the figure eight.
And that's a really important thing to note, Chad, because the longer this battle runs, the more reruns we get, the hotter Brad Tui's twin Pro-Charged V8 is going to get. It's only a matter of time before this thing cooks itself, so will he be able to decide the battle before that happens? Schembri out in front, putting down a bit of a smokescreen, trying to confuse the driver behind him. Tui sticking with him, coming into that sweeper. Schembri right on the outside track edge there. That is exactly what the judges are looking for, and as they come across the finish line, there's hope.
Cameron Mode's thinking this is a chance to maybe pick up Beau Yates' lovely wife, Rebecca. He's got his fiancée actually watching on with him as well. That was very close, but advantage Schembri, who was the lead car.
There was quite a gap pulled there, but I mean, Tui pulled a huge gap on Schembri in the earlier run that caused the rerun as well. So it still really is anybody's game, and the championship is well and truly on the line.
Still sparks off the bottom of that Toyota 86. Achilles on the door, Achilles on the rim. Gee, plenty of dust right on that edge of the track as well.
Looks as if Tui is well and truly up it from some lights on the dash there, and possibly the end of that twin-charged LS motor.
Oh no, he's given up the ghost. It was getting hot. Maybe the kettle has boiled. And that means that Schembri is through, but he still needs to win one more battle. Let's just see if we can pick up what happened here.
When we were riding on board with him, you could see those alarm lights on the top of the dash absolutely going off, and it looks like the power was lost. Knowing Tui, he would have stayed on it.
Oh man, that is a heartbreaker. Let's hear from Beau down on the fence.
Yeah, it's one of those things, as I said, I should be in the car out there battling. If I didn't make that mistake behind Gav, or he had some good speed, so I don't think he's won it yet. I think he's got to win the night to beat me outright. If he's finishes second, I think we're equal first. So I don't know, Gav's a good driver. Hopefully he can knock one of these blokes off their perch and see how Schembri ends up in the final.
I knew in my chase I had to put it on him really close because he sort of gapped me a bit on the start line. So yeah, I just threw it in there and tried to go on his door as much as I could. Unfortunately, he had to pull out, and it would have been a close battle again. So getting through there now, I think I still got to win the last round to win the championship. So we'll get out there and give it a go.
Fair to say that Beau Yates is cheering on Gavin Edwards right now. He does not want to see an all-Blaze unit final.
Yeah, it's a weird position to be in. I mean, if James Abbott gets through here, he'll be facing his teammate holding on both hands, whether to go through and go all out and possibly knock his teammate off the podium, or whether to hand it to a guy and they go side by side in every run. But knowing James Abbott personally, I very much doubt that's what we're going to see. But first, Gavin Edwards stands in the way, and this is a driver who earlier in the week actually took out another drifting championship on top of the podium. A serious driver that is putting on a show for James Abbott, who is getting closer than ever. We've seen him putting on that chase technique earlier in the night.
Wow. Let's just have another look at this one more time. How did he pull that up without making contact? That is unbelievable. James Abbott gets the advantage from the judges and is one step closer to facing his own teammate in the final.
I said it earlier in the night, but James Abbott just demonstrating absolutely textbook chase technique, coming in hot, getting close, but managing to pull up without contact. And that's something that Gav is going to try his best to emulate here, coming in a little bit hot on the driver's door there, but leaving that gap as they come into their transition, where he dives down onto that passenger door, and again, diving at the inside through the hairpin here. But that high-powered, high-grip Blaze unit S15 just seems to absolutely gap him up the hill.
Well, with the advantage already in his pocket, you'd have to say that the Blaze unit are on for a teammate battle in the final. Oh my goodness me.
Hand out the window, I mean, I think he knows it. Confirmation coming from the judges now. And it's Abbott through to the final. This is going to be a Blaze unit final. Sure to be an interesting one. We'll head to Abbott in the pits to hear what he thinks about it.
Oh, well, I guess it's kind of the dream position, isn't it? Blaze unit for 1-2. Whichever way it goes, I think we'll just battle that out, and I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to be invited back to his house for beers afterwards if I beat him. Well, I'm just going to go out and drive the best I can. The good rides are super sticky. They've got me to this point, but I've run out now, so I'm going to be going out on second-hand tyres. So maybe there's an advantage there, maybe not. I don't know. We're going to I don't know. We'll just go have fun. That's what it's all about.
And I well and truly believe James Abbott there going to be putting on his A game. It looks like Tui has well and truly cooked that motor. We saw him pushing through it, but unfortunately giving up the ghost after the rerun there. Seems to have sprayed coolant all over the place. Radiator cap hitting the roof and all. That is an absolutely cooked LS motor. But it looks like he's just going to put some more coolant back in to replace what is sprayed all over that 8.6. Going up with an injured motor up against Gav Edwards in the V8 powered R32, and then we'll see an all-blaze unit final. Schembri up against Abbott. Schembri with an opportunity to take out this championship. If Jabbett wins, Schembri and Beau will actually tie for the championship, which I'm sure Beau, standing on the sidelines, fingers crossed there. He has said earlier on, wishes he was out there battling, but unfortunately a mistake up against the guy we're riding on board with now. Gav Edwards pushed him out of the championship earlier on. Gav has already had a good night, but how will he fare up against Brad Tui? It's anyone's game who's going to end up on the third step on the podium. As they come into the sweeper now, Tui looks like he's straightened up. Big understeer there. Gav still staying on the angle. Unfortunately, possibly Tui's car back out again. This was a severely hurt little 8.6 with the twin pro-charged LS. Waving at the judges. Looks like he's out. Unfortunately, that cooked motor handing the third podium position to Gavin Edwards, who is well and truly happy to take it. But Tui placed that motor on the line as he said he would earlier on. Keen to sacrifice a motor to get onto the podium. We'll hear all about it with Chad.
This man deserves some love tonight. Brad Tui trying everything. He unfortunately will not stand on the podium in 2015, despite literally risking everything to try and make it happen. Check out Gav Edwards blazing it up. He is going to be on the podium tonight. But when I spoke to Brad Tui earlier in the evening, he said tonight is all about getting on the podium. I hope you haven't done anything too terminal there, but it doesn't sound great.
I've got 2 months off, plenty of time to fix whatever's broken. So, you know, the last round, you've got to risk it all. Risk it to get the biscuit, so to speak. Yep. So, yeah.
Bet big or go home?
100%, man. You've got to back yourself and give it a crack, eh? But, you know, congrats to Gav. Obviously, he's driving awesome. All the boys are driving awesome tonight, so, yeah.
Want to see the attitude of Australian drifting personified, look no further than Brad Tui, a guy heading home with a cooked motor on the trailer with nothing but a smile on his face because he gave it all he could to end up on the podium. That bottom position now decided with Gav Edwards, and the top 2 spots about to be decided between the Blaze unit boys. 2 guys have put on incredible battles tonight. Schembri with the championship on the line, first facing up against Ben Meir in the top 16, a spin earlier on that sweeper, handing him the position through. Then matched up against Arbolino, who unfortunately had diff issues, putting the car on the trailer, but Schembri had issues of his own with the gearbox popping out of second gear. Oki strapped it back in to try and hold it in gear, facing up against Tui, who we've just heard cooked that twin supercharged LS motor and had to put it on the trailer. His teammate as well having a few issues, absolutely sticking the chase runs behind Porter, a guy who put on such a great effort that he nearly knocked out James Abbott back in those top 16 runs, then going on to face Jeffrey in the top 8, and then finally in the top 4, a battle we've recently seen up against Gav Edwards. It was an absolutely serious competition tonight. Every driver bringing their A game, honing skills throughout the series to be put to the test at the home of the Hi-Tec Drift Allstars, where it all began. Sydney Motorsport Parks, Figure 8 circuit. Scott Schembri now out in front of James Abbott for what is sure to be an absolutely edge-of-the-seat final. 2 fantastic sounding cars. Schembri's out in front with somewhere in the region of a 400 kilowatt SR20, chased by James Abbott in a very similarly set up S chassis, but with a JZ motor from the Toyota family riding on board. Both of these cars with a lot of power, but react very differently, and it's interesting to see these guys who've been driving together since practically they started drifting now in a battle. as they come across the finish line. There may have been accusations of sandbagging earlier on, but I saw absolutely no sign of it, with James Abbott putting on a stellar chase run, as good as we've seen earlier in the night. Right up on that door, almost forcing Schembri to the track edge, whether that was a force from the chase or simply going too deep and too keen there, having a bit of a dirt drop, and it looks like the judges have called the advantage to Abbott. Heading through now, we're about to have the position switch, something that's very difficult to tell looking at the front end of these cars. Both running the S15 front, but only Jabbett's an actual S15 chassis, with Schembri's a 180SX underneath. Both set up very similarly, and now Abbott out in front with a lot of angle. Schembri trying his best to chase him down, but it looks like there is a bit of a gap here. Could this championship actually be decided in the final round? Both drivers coming through the final outside clipping section. It looks like a wheels dropped from Abbott and a straighten up. As Schembri comes through the inside here, he is our 2015 champion for the Hi-Tec Oils Drift All-Stars. The look on Beau's face says it all. Down in the pits there, a guy who came into this round with an 8-point lead, absolutely gutted, losing the first championship he's had a shot at since coming back to drifting. Let's hear from him now.
Beau, you were here, you stood, you watched it all unfold. Jabbett laid it down in the first run, but a small mistake and then it was all over. How are you feeling?
Oh, it is what it is, mate. You know, as I said, I should probably be out there battling for Lewin, but, you know, they're a pretty good bunch, the Blaze unit guys. They drive well, and Jabs definitely threw it down in the chase there, but I don't know, not a great attempt to try and gather that straight in the dirt there. But anyway, Schembri's won, and it is what it is. And, you know, second place isn't bad. You know, we missed a whole round, and the car's been performing well all year, and as I said, these guys drive really well, and you can't take anything away from them. They're great drivers, and they've got a good crew down there, and I'm really happy for them.
Even gracious in defeat, the ultimate nice guy of drifting, Beau Yates. We look at the points now. Scott Schembri coming out on top, closely followed by his teammate James Abbott, and Gavin Edwards rounding out the top three. We'll head down to the pits now to hear from them.
Oh, look, I knew it'd be fast around the whole track. He had a brand new Good Ride RSs on, and I just gave it everything I could, and got on the power a bit early there and dropped the wheel, and I was, to be honest, I'm not that upset. He's got the championship, so that looks good for us as a team, and couldn't be happier for him, to be honest.
We'll quickly hop in with Scott. Talk us through what you saw in that final.
Yeah, Jabs put a killer chase down. You know, we always battle mad together. We've done it for years. Last corner, I just saw him drop two wheels and pull off to the side, so he was going to get the win and hopefully the championship. So I had a bit of fun seeing the break around the back corner. So thanks to everyone coming out tonight and watching do what we do. You know, we all love you fans heaps, and that's why we keep pushing hard all the time. And thanks to all my team, all our sponsors.
After 6 big rounds across 3 states, and despite an 8-point lead for Beau Yates heading into this final round, Scott Schembri, the master chef, the bacon break king, has come out on top, scraping through by only 4 points. It's a hard-earned victory, and to crown the champion, we'll now head down to chat in the pits.
Your champion for 2015 for the Blaze unit. Ladies and gentlemen, make some noise for Scott Schembri.
Yeah, no, it's been an emotional roller coaster the last couple of months, but it just feels awesome to be up here for my team and all my family and all my sponsors. We're pushing harder all the time, and I can't wait to do it again next year. Thanks a lot.
I'm sure there's going to be plenty of party at the Australian Breweries Blaze Unit HQ tonight. What a way to end the year, Chad.
Oh, an amazing final round of the championship. Congratulations to George Gambino and the whole team down there at Hi-Tec Oils. Thanks to our friends Achilles Radials and also Hitachi Power Tools. We cannot wait for the season to kick off again in 2016. We'll see you then.
Coming up after the break, we wind back to the final round of the 2013 Slamfest Series from Mackay's Palmyra Raceway in North Queensland.